Have you ever found yourself stuck, endlessly overthinking every decision, no matter how big or small? You're not alone. Anxiety has a sneaky way of turning even the simplest choices into stressful dilemmas. But what if I told you there's a way to break free from that cycle of indecision? Today, we're going to talk about how anxiety impacts decision-making, and more importantly, how you can make confident choices without letting fear take over. Let's dive right in and start taking back control of your decision-making power. 1. How anxiety affects decision-making. Anxiety and decision-making are closely linked. When you're anxious, your brain is in a heightened state of alert, and making even the simplest decisions can feel overwhelming. Anxiety often triggers what's known as analysis paralysis, where you get stuck overanalyzing every option to the point that you can't make any decision at all. Fight or flight response. Anxiety can put you into a fight or flight mode where your brain is trying to protect you from potential threats. This heightened state of awareness can make it difficult to think clearly, leading you to avoid making decisions altogether or rushing into choices just to relieve the discomfort. Fear of making the wrong choice. Anxiety often amplifies the fear of making the wrong decision. You may find yourself worrying about the consequences, imagining worst-case scenarios or second-guessing yourself long after the decision has been made. Perfectionism. Many people with anxiety feel the need to make the perfect decision, which creates even more pressure. This mindset can make it hard to take action because no option feels good enough or safe enough. Understanding how anxiety impacts your decision-making process is the first step toward taking control. Once you recognize the patterns, you can start using strategies to manage them and make choices with greater confidence. 2. Recognizing when anxiety is driving your choices. One of the biggest challenges is identifying when anxiety is influencing your decisions. Sometimes, anxiety can disguise itself as intuition or make you believe that overthinking is just being thorough. Here's how to recognize when anxiety is in the driver's seat. You're stuck in overthinking. If you're spending excessive time thinking about the pros and cons of a decision, but not moving any closer to a solution, it's likely that anxiety is taking over. You avoid making decisions. Avoidance is a classic sign of anxiety. If you find yourself putting off decisions because they feel too overwhelming or scary, anxiety might be the culprit. Your body feels tense. Physical signs like a racing heart, tense muscles, or shallow breathing can indicate that anxiety is influencing your decision-making. Your body often reacts before your mind fully registers that something is making you anxious. 3. Breaking the cycle of overthinking. Overthinking is a common way that anxiety shows up during decision-making. You might go over every possible scenario, trying to predict the outcome of each choice, but this can lead to feeling more overwhelmed. Here's how to break the cycle. Set a time limit. Give yourself a specific amount of time to think about the decision. This could be 5 minutes for small choices or a day for bigger decisions. Once the time is up, commit to making a decision, even if it's not perfect. Use the good enough mindset. Instead of aiming for the perfect decision, aim for one that's good enough. Perfection is often an impossible standard, and accepting that good enough can reduce the pressure and make decision-making less stressful. Limit your options. Having too many choices can lead to decision fatigue. If you're faced with multiple options, try to narrow them down to just 2 or 3. This makes the decision-making process more manageable and less overwhelming. 4. Practical decision-making techniques for anxiety. Now that we understand how anxiety affects decision-making, let's dive into some practical techniques to help you make choices with more confidence and less stress. 1. The pros and cons list. This classic method is simple but effective. Write down the advantages and disadvantages of each option. Seeing your thoughts on paper can help you organize your ideas and make the decision-making process more logical and less emotional. 2. The worst-case scenario exercise. Anxiety often thrives on worst-case scenarios, but sometimes facing these fears head-on can help. Ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen if I make this choice? Then consider how likely that outcome really is and what you could do to manage it if it did happen. 3. The 10/10/10 rule. This rule helps you think about the long-term impact of your decision. Ask yourself, how will I feel about this decision in 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years? This can help put your decision into perspective and reduce the immediate anxiety you might feel about making the wrong choice. 4. The 2-minute rule for smaller decisions. Give yourself just 2 minutes to make the choice. Set a timer and force yourself to decide quickly. This technique helps prevent overthinking from taking over and can be particularly useful for everyday decisions like what to wear or what to eat. 5. Dealing with fear of regret. One of the most paralyzing parts of decision-making is the fear of regret. What if you choose the wrong option and regret it later? This fear can be so strong that it prevents you from making any decision at all. Accept that regret is normal. Everyone feels regret at some point, but it doesn't mean you failed. Regret is a natural part of life and decision-making. Accepting that you might feel some level of regret, no matter what you choose, can help reduce the fear of making the wrong decision. Focus on learning. Instead of viewing decisions as permanent or life-defining, see them as opportunities to learn. Even if things don't turn out as planned, you gain valuable experience and insight that you can apply to future choices. Trust your gut. Sometimes, after analyzing all the options, you just need to trust your intuition. Overthinking can cloud your judgment, but your gut instinct often knows what feels right. Learning to trust yourself and your ability to make decisions is a powerful way to combat anxiety. 6. Building confidence in your decision-making skills. Anxiety can make you doubt your ability to make good decisions, but building confidence is key to overcoming this challenge. Here are some ways to strengthen your decision-making skills. Start small. If you struggle with big decisions, start with smaller, low-stakes choices. Practice making quick decisions about everyday things, like what to eat for lunch or what movie to watch. These small victories will build your confidence over time. Reflect on past decisions. Take a moment to reflect on decisions you've made in the past. How did they turn out? Even if things didn't go perfectly, what did you learn from the experience? Reminding yourself that you've successfully navigated decisions before can boost your confidence in your ability to do it again. Celebrate your wins. When you make a decision, no matter how big or small, take a moment to celebrate it. Acknowledge the effort it took to make the choice, and remind yourself that you're capable of making good decisions, even when anxiety is present. 7. Long-term strategies for reducing anxiety in decision-making. While these tips can help you in the moment, reducing anxiety around decision-making requires long-term strategies as well. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is a powerful tool for managing anxiety. By staying present and focusing on the here and now, you can reduce the mental chatter that often accompanies decision-making. Meditation, deep breathing exercises, or simply taking a few moments to ground yourself can help. Create a decision-making routine. Having a routine for making decisions can reduce anxiety. For example, you might always start by listing pros and cons, then using the 10-10/10 rule, and finally setting a time limit. This structured approach can make the process feel less chaotic and more manageable. Talk to someone you trust. Sometimes, sharing your thoughts with a trusted friend or family member can bring clarity. They can offer a different perspective, help you see the bigger picture, or simply provide reassurance that you're on the right track. Just make sure not to rely too heavily on others for validation. Ultimately, the decision is yours. Decision-making doesn't have to be an anxiety-ridden experience. By understanding how anxiety affects your choices, using practical techniques to manage it, and building confidence in your ability to make decisions, you can start making choices with clarity and peace of mind. Remember, no decision is ever set in stone. The most important thing is to take action and trust yourself. Which of these tips will you try the next time you're faced with a tough decision? Let me know in the comments below, and let's work together toward more confident decision-making.